your host, Dubble Krown.
You don't get it, do you? You just don't get it. They've turned the economy into an electrical circuit board. Imagine you've got a point A and a point B here. I've got customer A and business B. You could imagine them as just being 2 points, and you've got the current flowing, electrons flowing from point A to point B. You can convert those electrons into money and just think of money flowing from point A to point B. They've turned the economy into an electrical circuit board. So we've got, you think about electronics, you think about voltage. Voltage is the force or electrical pressure that has the potential to cause electron flow in a circuit. So you're applying force or pressure to make people spend money. So the typical things would be stuff like, well, obviously we have to buy food, so there's pressure to spend money on food because you have to eat. And housing is the other big one. You have to have housing. You need a roof over your head. So that's the pressure because the housing prices go up. That's the force or pressure that they're putting on people because you don't want to be homeless. So you have to spend money on housing. Let's look at the other stuff like watts. 1 watt equals work done when 1 joule is used per second. Then we've got resistance, the opposition to current flow in a circuit measured in ohms. That's the opposition to you spending money. How much the resistance is, and that means in certain areas they can stop you, from transacting. They can stop the transaction, and a transaction that you want to do. For example, you might want to go on holiday, but there's going to be tremendous resistance to that. They don't want you to go on holiday. They want you to work, so they can apply resistance there. They can stop the flow of money in that area. And one example is to raise prices of holidays during the summer holidays. They raise the prices, etc. What else have we got here? We've got resistors, an electrical component designed to provide specific resistance. So they plant these resistors in various pockets of society, which prevents the flow of money in certain areas. Then we've got current. Current is the rate of flow of electrons or the rate of flow of money through a conductor or component, and depending on the transaction, they can specify the exact amount of money in a transaction. For example, if you want to send money abroad, they might say, we're going to restrict you. You can only send £500 abroad. Or if you want to pay a bill over the counter in a bank, they will say, you can't pay bills over £500. We need ID. We need proof, and they provide the resistance. They can measure exactly how much current is passing, exactly how much money is flowing in a certain direction. Then you've got things like capacitance, which is the ability of 2 conductors separated by an insulator to store an electrical charge. So this is the ability of a business or a person or an individual or an organization to store money, and then, of course, again, they can measure that, how much money can this business store? How much power do they have? Because money is power. You've got things like capacitors, a device designed to provide specific amounts of capacitance. So specific organizations, specific companies will have certain amounts of capital. They're permitted certain amounts of capital, and they're treating the economy like an electrical circuit board. So what else have we got here? We've got conductors, a low resistance material to provide a path for current. So a conductor makes a transaction easy. It allows you to make that transaction. For example, in a shop, you go into a shop, you're no longer allowed to negotiate, barter. You're not allowed to reduce the price. It's always a fixed price item. The flow, the conduction there is not as free as it could be, because if you were allowed to negotiate a price, the flow of current would be much easier. But of course, they want to stop that. An insulator, a material that has a high resistance to current flow. So again, they can plant insulation in various places, which prevents the flow of money in certain areas. We've got ground, which is a common return path for current in an electrical circuit. So that means, what are the common places that you're going to spend money? For example, if you're suffering depression, if you're feeling down, what are you going to do? You're going to turn to things like alcohol. You're going to turn to the cinema. There's common areas that you're constantly going to spend money on, and you could regard that as ground. You're always going to turn to alcohol. You're always going to turn to watching the movies, or you're always going to turn to playing video games, whatever it is. We've got an ampere. That is the unit of measurement for current. So again, they can specify exactly how much money is flowing in a certain direction, and they can actually, they can change that amount. It could be $1,000, £1,000, but they can change it to £500 or $500, with a flick of a switch. Then we've got conductance, the ability of a conductor to allow the flow of electrons. So certain individuals, certain organizations will have a greater ability to spend money. For example, when companies are bidding, some companies will be allowed or permitted to win contracts much easier than other companies, and so they can specify which companies can spend money and which ones they want excluded. The companies that are out of the club, the ones that they're not interested in. We've got transistors, a small electronic semiconductor device having at least 3 electrical contacts, used in a circuit as an amplifier or a switch. So they've got these switching mechanisms, and they can switch money flow on, or they can switch money flow off at will, if you like. We've got a diode. A diode is a semiconductor device that only allows current to pass through in one direction. So the example I gave previously was the customer. The customer is always spending in the organization. So the flow of money is always one way. When was the last time that a company ever gave you money? When was the last time that happened? If you've got a dodgy product, then you might be due compensation, but there's tremendous resistance there to you ever receiving compensation. And they've set up these companies. For example, they've set up trading standards. Now, the last time I had a complaint and I went to trading standards, they said, well, if you've got a problem and with this company, then perhaps you should think about not spending your money there in the future. That was their solution. That was their answer. No sense of getting justice, no sense of getting compensation there when you've got a legitimate complaint. So then we've got things like, what else have we got? What have I said? A diode is a semiconductor device that only allows current to pass through one direction. Yeah, we've discussed that. Then we've got direct current. Current from a power source that continually flows in the same direction. We've covered this. Money's always going in one direction. It's always going out of your pocket. And it's very hard to get money coming in. To get money coming in, you have to work very hard. And again, there's tremendous resistance from the companies to give you money because the wages are lower than they were. So this is the mechanisms they're using. They're turning the economy into an electrical circuit board. We need electricians to work out what the hell is going on here. Alternating current here. Current from a power source that changes polarity periodically. So here you've got a money flow which can go in both directions, and it will change occasionally. So if a business is dealing with another business, they will both be trading with each other, and the flow of that money from one to the other will change periodically depending on circumstances. And of course, they can change that flow between companies themselves. They can do that pretty much with the flick of a switch, if you like. Right, we've got Ohm's law, a very basic circuit law that defines the relationship between current, voltage, and resistance. So, using the factors that we've talked about, they can produce formula and determine exactly, what the flow of money is going to be, how much pressure is put on an individual, and how much pressure is put on a company. They can measure all these things, and they can measure the amount of resistance to a company or to an individual, and they can do this mathematically. They can do this scientifically. We are entering the era, well, we've already entered the era of the technocracy. This is a technological takeover. Right, we've got fuses, a protective device designed to interrupt current flow. A protective device designed to interrupt current flow. So you can think of fuses, they break. So they know exactly, if we, in a certain situation, if we apply pressure to a certain situation, or if we apply pressure to a certain company, that company is going to break. It's going to go bankrupt. It's going to go bust. And they can do this mathematically. They can do this by plugging these formulas into a computer, and the computer can apply pressure in certain areas, apply pressure to certain individuals, and this is what they're doing. Terminal, a connection point for electrical components or conductors. Then we've got a closed circuit, a circuit that provides a complete path for current. So, for example, an individual country could be classed as a closed circuit. Think of somewhere like North Korea or somewhere where the money's just flowing around in that country. Nothing's going in, nothing's going out. This is the closed circuit kind of structure that they might have in, that they can apply in certain, perhaps in certain states or certain counties. They can do that, and they can treat the entire economy like an electrical circuit board. This is a mathematical takeover we've got. So if we've got any electricians on board who know how these things work, I mean, here we have a circuit board. So here you can measure the resistance, you can measure the voltage, you can measure the current, the amperes, you can measure all those things, and they know exactly when a company is going to break. They know when an individual is going to break and burst into flames. This is what we're facing. We're facing a technocracy. We need the electricians on board. And of course they can do this with cars as well. They know exactly, where if they shut this road, they're impeding the traffic flow, and the traffic is going to be diverted, and they can cause gridlock in a city at will. With the council planning and the computers which are analysing traffic here, there, and everywhere. And of course, they can reduce the flow of traffic by creating bus lanes, so that there's tremendous pressure building up to basically drive you nuts. This is what we're facing. We're facing a technocracy